So I've got about minus 10 minutes to finish my presentation, so I will try to move a little quickly. So good news, everyone. We've got C# 7 with Visual Studio 2017 out, and we can almost start using it. I guess we should still use 2015 until we will finish migration on some projects, but I guess we will move to 2017 quite soon. And I prepared some basic examples of new features in the language, and in most cases it's just the syntactic sugar. So it's a way that can make your coding easier. And I will just jump into the first one. I was too lazy to prepare slides, so I've got just this beautiful ASCII art. Okay, so the first example is output variables. Currently, you already know this kind of function when you've got out variables and you need to parse, for example, string, and you need to define the value outside the command before calling the command, and then just use it in some way. In the C# 7, you can use something called out variables, and you can move the definition inside the calling of the method. So it's like removing the definition, and you can just do this. So if you move it here, then everything after this command, and not just inside the if scope, but also after that, get this int variable value. You also don't need to specify the type. You can also use like just out var, and you can save one line of the code. But it's pretty common to use it, and it can save you some time. So this is the first example. It's quite simple to use, and it can save you some time. The second example is a little bit more complicated, but quite useful. Have you ever write something like this? You've got some variable, and you want to find out what type it is, and in case of different types, do different things. That's probably quite common thing in the C#, and you can see that I'm checking if collection is some type, and then I can try to convert it and use it. There is two problems. One problem is that you need to check for it first, and then you want to convert it. And in case I make some mistake here, for example, it can be something like this. I can, for example, change it. Then I can compile the code, but in runtime it will crash because the collection is not type of the hash set. So if you've got few different blocks of this code, you can copy paste it and forget about it. So that can be problem. So what you can do in C# 7, you can do something similar as a out variable, but you can do it directly on the line when you are checking if some variable contains the specific type. So instead of declaring it on this line, I can just place the name of the variable here. The same I can do here. And the C#, if the collection is this type, contains the instance of this type, it will create the scoped variable inside this if, and I can use it inside. So this can help you a little bit, and it can also shorten the code and make you more productive. Another thing that you can use is using this is syntax inside the switch statement. So if you are using the switch, you can check if something inside the switch equals some value that you define in the case blocks. In the C#7, it's widely extended, and you can do something like this. Okay, I will be doing check of collection, and I can check if collection is list of integers, and I already forget.
List of integers, maybe just saying about break.
It's not the type of, it's something like this or not. Okay. But you can do really cool stuff, and I need to check it. Okay, just use documentation. Also, of course, I didn't forget it. I just want to show you the new cool docs that Microsoft is using, which is also something quite important because they are migrating a lot of MSDN documentation to the docs.microsoft.com, which is really something. And it's not just because I forget how you define it. Okay, it's like, it should be like this. Yeah, of course. I already use it here. So that was the issue. Okay, so you can rewrite it like this. In case something else here, like checking for another type. You can do it like this. And also there's this default. So this is really interesting way how to define some instead of using a lot of ifs, you can now use the switch statement. And for example, you can use it in case you are receiving some kind of events and you want to decide what exact type of events is there. And also there is another extension, and that's command when, and you can extend it like this. You've got this case statement, and I've got two ways how to respond. One is if there is already the number inside the hash set, then I want to throw an exception, and if not, I want to add it to the hash set and continue. So I can do something like this, where when hash set contains number, okay, it's new number. So you can now extend the cases that have the same value, that checks for the same value, in this case for the same type, and you can extend when and add some condition that this branch is processed only in the condition is true. So that can it's not just if you are using it like this to check the types, you can use it in every switch statement, which is quite interesting and can really extend the cases where you can use the switch statement. Okay, so another one is the C# extended the places where you can use the lambda expressions. It was not possible to use it everywhere, and now they extended quite a lot. For example, they extended using lambdas in constructors. So I can do something like this. And also I can extend the specific get and set.
Isn't this the feature of C#6 or
First example is the 6th one. Next one is with the
No,
get.
it was only with property, not
Yes.
inside construction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can use it also on indexers, and basically in almost everywhere when it makes sense. You wasn't able to do it in C#6. And another thing that's quite interesting is something called. In fact, I don't even know how it's called, but it's quite interesting. You can do something like this. You can set value, but in a case, if it's null, you can use the throw statement. So, if the right part of the expression is invoked, like in cases a value is null, then the argument null exception is thrown. So that's also something that can help you to shorten the code and use lambda functions in most pleasant way, I would say, in the C#, because you're already using lambda functions almost everywhere. Okay, and last example is related to tuples and nested functions. Let's look at this function. This function got 3 parameters. It receives the configuration, name of the configuration element, and default value if the configuration element is not in the configuration. And right now I would like to extend it. To know if the default value has been used. So in the configuration the item is missing. So that's like this inside this if statement, or if the configuration value has been used. So I can do basically 2 things. One thing is for the lazy people, and you can define out variable like this, and you can probably set it like this. Is default has been used, and also is default has not been used. So that's something you can do, but it's quite inconsistent, because something is returned in the return value and something is returned inside from the output parameter, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's easier to do it out variables, but it's not very clean. So if you are not so lazy, you can create some return type, and this return type can have the value and for example something called is default value used. But that's also quite a lot of work, and you don't want to define 1 million of little types for everything in your C# code. So there's something called tuples that you can use in C#7. There was tuples in C#6, but it was not very pleasant to work with it. And in C#7, you can define multi-value returns as a main return value, and it can be defined like this. So I'm telling I can return string and a bool value, and here I can just define it like this.
Remove the out parameter.
So yeah. Okay. And it's not meant to be used for 1000 parameters. If you need something larger, just use some custom type. But for these small things is quite useful. And you can also name parameters, because if you don't name it, you've got item 1 and item 2 properties, which is not very clean. So you can name it like this. Name and now you can use it and process it as you want. Also, if returning, you can name parameters. So in case you will change order, it will not break your code. So that's quite useful. And you can use it like this. Another thing you can do. You don't need to use it as a return value of functions. You can use it also in your code. So, for example, I can do something like this. And this my value have these item 1, item 2, item 3 properties because I didn't use name parameters. I can of course name it. So something like this. And then you can use it. Everything is strongly typed. So it basically gives you an option to use some kind of tuples, some simple structures, and you don't need to define it as a standalone class. You can just define it, for example, by the signature of the function. So this can help you a little bit if you want to also shorten your code. Okay, and the last thing I want to show is the nested functions. The nested function is something you can do inside of method. Maybe it happened to you that you've got some method and you want to use some other method inside it, but you don't need to define it on the class scope. You want to use it just in this one specific method. You can already use it. You can already define it like some function and define something like this, and then write the function. That's possible, but it's not very nice because it's quite long to define it. You need to write quite a lot of characters, and also it's different how you define the regular function in the class and the function inside the method. So the nested method works like this. You can take the whole method and place it inside another method. Of course, you can remove the access modifiers because it will be always accessible only from this one specific method. And for example, I can remove also the configuration parameter because the method inside can access to every variable accessible from inside of the method. Okay, so I can do it like this, and also remove configuration here, and yeah, that's it. You can use it.
Very soon C# will not become a C#.
Okay, I hope I didn't make any. Yeah, it should be. I should be able to compile it. Okay, perfect. So that's some of the most famous features from C#7 that can help you. You of course you need to be careful. You cannot overuse it, but that's probably the general advice on any technology. If you overuse it, it's not very useful. So in some cases it can be helpful. In some cases you don't want to use it, but it's quite interesting, and I hope C# will continue in implementing some of these features. Also, you can if you want, I can give you the link to the website where Microsoft Teams discuss the new features. So it's not like someone tells, okay, we should use this, we should create this. It's not like that. It's always some long-term discussion about the new features, and you can be part of it. Okay, so thanks for for attention, I guess, and have a great day and weekend.
Okay.